The first macromolecule that we're going to talk about are the carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates are sugars, also known as saccharides. Whenever you see saccharide, that means sugar, and starches. And carbohydrates have a lot of really important functions for all of life. I mean, first of all, you guys know carbohydrates serve as an immediate energy source and a long-term energy source. When your blood sugar is low, you lose a lot of energy, right? You feel tired. So you need sugar in your diet. Nobody could ever have a diet of no carbs. Like, it just wouldn't be possible. You need them. Also, remember that your body consists of a lot of carbon. Carbon is like the most important element of life. Well, guess where that carbon in your body comes from? It comes from carbohydrates. So you need carbohydrates so that your body can exist. Also, carbohydrates are a major component of your DNA and your RNA. Your nucleic acids are actually made up of carbs. If you didn't eat carbs, you would have no genetic material. And also, carbs are a major component of all cells. They make up the structure of cells. Remember I said that all of these macromolecules require these small monomers that are going to get linked together? Well, the monomer that makes up carbs are called monosaccharides. Anytime you see mono, that means one, and saccharide means sugar. So one single sugar is the monomer that makes up carbohydrate. Now, some monosaccharides will never link with anything else. They'll just be by themselves. Here's what a monosaccharide looks like. Okay, a monosaccharide has a ring structure, and not just any ring structure, it's a single ring structure. So whenever you see on a test, I will ask you, and I'll show you a picture like this of a ring, a single ring, and I'll say, what is this? And you'll tell me, okay, it's a monosaccharide, which is a type of carbohydrate. So these structures could either consist of 5 carbons, such as down here, ribose and deoxyribose. These two sugars have 5 carbons. Here's how you can tell. Each one of these little points here is a carbon. There's one there. There's this little point here is a carbon, 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 and there's a carbon up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, by the way, ribose is the sugar that's in RNA. Hey, guess where deoxyribose is? All right, it's in DNA. So RNA and DNA consist of ribose or deoxyribose, and these are 5 carbon sugars. Or monosaccharides could be 6 carbon sugars. Here are examples: glucose, fructose, and galactose. All right, remember carbon here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 up here. All right, 6 carbons. You've probably seen these words before. Glucose is like our major sugar that we use to make ATP. Fructose, you might have heard of like fructose corn syrup. Fructose is actually a fruit sugar. It's found in fruits. And galactose, as you probably heard of lactose before, right? It's a dairy sugar. So galactose is very similar to lactose. So let's say, for example, we have this glucose molecule. All right, we know glucose has this kind of weird ring structure. And let's say this first glucose hooks up with another glucose. And the way these guys are going to hook up is they're going to use, again, a covalent bond. We have now created 2 glucose molecules that are stuck together. It's no longer a monosaccharide. This would be called a disaccharide. Di means 2, and again, saccharide means sugar. So we now have 2 sugars stuck together. This, when you have 2 glucose together, this is actually a molecule called maltose. Maltose is a sugar that we use in beer brewing. Have you guys heard of a malt? A malt, it comes from the word maltose because we use it in fermentation to brew beer. Let's look at another example. Let's say we take 1 glucose and hook it up with a galactose. All right, so if you took glucose and bound it with galactose, this is a disaccharide. It has a new name. It's called lactose. Lactose is 1 glucose and 1 galactose that are stuck together. And lactose is milk sugar. It's found in dairy products. Now, normally when someone drinks milk or they eat dairy, the milk goes through their digestive system and they have this special enzyme called lactase. Okay, notice it ends in ACE, ASE. Whenever you see that, you know it's an enzyme. So lactase, its job is to actually break this bond apart so that you can efficiently digest lactose. You can digest it and it breaks down into glucose and galactose. So again, normal digestion, you drink lactose, lactase breaks it apart into glucose and galactose, and you're happy because you get to eat ice cream, right? Some people have this condition called lactose intolerance. Someone who is lactose intolerant, they do not make this enzyme lactase, either because maybe they have a genetic predisposition where they don't make it at all, or sometimes as we get older, we stop making enough. So then when someone eats milk, lactose, their body cannot break down the lactose. That disaccharide makes it to the large intestines where there's a lot of bacteria. Your large intestines has a lot of bacteria in it, and the bacteria start fermenting this molecule, and when they ferment, they release acid and gas, and people get a really bad upset stomach every time they eat dairy products. So that's what causes lactose intolerance. Now, most carbohydrates that we think about are actually what we call polysaccharides. So poly means many. So a polysaccharide has many sugars that are all stuck together, many monosaccharides attached. And polysaccharides are what we use to store our energy in the body. So there's some examples of polysaccharides. Cellulose. Cellulose is a plant sugar. For example, if you've eaten celery or other really green fibrous vegetables, they store their energy, their carbs, as cellulose. Now here's something interesting. Another plant polysaccharide is starch. Starch is also found in plants. Humans cannot break down cellulose. We do not have the ability to break these bonds apart. So cellulose is basically your fiber. You don't get any energy out of it. Starch, on the other hand, we can break these bonds. So we can get calories, energy from starch. So like potatoes and corn have a lot of starch, whereas celery and kale and things like that have a lot of cellulose, and you don't really get anything out of them. You do get some fiber though. Now us humans, we store our energy as glycogen. So all animals, mammals, including humans, we store our energy in the form of glycogen. And as you can see, all of these polysaccharides are all made up of many glucose molecules, but they're just held together differently. You might have heard of chitin. It's like in crab shells. This is another example of a polysaccharide. Don't forget to look over at the review question.